Hello, good evening. Chris from Rebound here on another show for Upstreamedia, part of the daily YouTube shows this channel's been doing to keep us all entertained during lockdown. Firstly, I hope you're all well and keeping safe and doing what we can to sort of get by in what's a very difficult time. If you're new to the channel, obviously give the channel a like and subscribe. Rupert from Upstreamedia is doing some great work in terms of ensuring there's content out there for us to consume. And I say it's amazing. If you didn't know, before during the season he was streaming D1 Thames Valley Cavaliers home games. It was really good live stream package, and you'd probably rewatch some of those games from going to the channel, and also all the videos myself, Rupert, CJ, Jack Gets High Rollers, and many other shows on there. So quite a few to watch. Tonight it's just myself, but we've got a really good show planned. I kind of had the idea a few weeks ago to sort of every so often do some like a news episode because I've been quite busy the last few weeks. I've started working from home, moving down to Devon, but also just general sort of preparing for the show. And it often means I miss some of the great content out there. And I've got a massive Word document with all the stuff I don't watch in good time, but I say I'll try and be a bit more active and also a bit of personal development. And I'll get to that bit later on. But there's so much great content out there. There's so many people taking that opportunity to talk basketball. I've really enjoyed all the different varied content out there. So I thought I'd start with the news. So last week I talked a bit about Hughes and Basketball England did a roundtable webinar respectively, and lots of good conversations. Jenny, you can watch that. That was probably some really good content for both providers to watch, along with the shows on this channel, of course. But obviously that's the podcast have sort of reacted to that and done some good chats. I'm not sure. I think some was a bit coincidental. I'm still to catch up on the Juice Pods one on terms of their thoughts on what the youngsters should be doing in terms of their development, because in that BBL podcast with Sam New to Hootsfix, they were sort of saying, but the BBL chairman felt that roughly 90% of guys who go to the States is a wasted opportunity. And I think it was easy to leap to that headline. I think, oh gosh, but they were talking about they could have got a similar opportunity if they'd stayed in the UK or gone somewhere different. It's hard when you jump abroad, you're not sure of all the steps. So they would just say, but it's a cautionary tale, but the young ballers who are going up to their degrees should sort of make sure it's the right move for them, and maybe they're not missing out on the opportunity of better coaches or facilities or professional games in the UK. It's a hard decision, and a lot of my shows I've had guests on, we sort of try and break down some of that, because I think it's really important that the next generation that make sure they have the best opportunity possible, because that, if you want to talk about growing British basketball, a lot of that's about the British players that are coming through the system currently, and we talk about finance really important, but if we've got some really top talent, that's really help grow the game too. And obviously talking on top talent, Chuck doing the ISO podcast, it's got the latest episode's got Jeremy Sochan on the show. NBL followers will know, but he played for Itchen and Kestrel, so that really good to sort of get his account, because I think it's easy for either ballers voice who've gone on a journey or to be our chairman to make that observation, but they feel it's messy. But it's really good to listen to some young players who sort of in their first or second or third years talk about their experiences, and there's so many content creators do content each day and each week. It's so easy to miss some, but likes of Chris, Chris, Siobhan Pryor, Chuck, and they're all doing that great content and sort of the players' experience. So if you haven't checked them out, check them out. I've got all the links to their channels on the Rebound WordPress website, so obviously give it a look. Okay, I'll have a little breather. I've covered quite a bit there. I appreciate you guys probably like, not watch this, not watch that. But I've really enjoyed some of its great content. I I literally just finished watching yesterday. Jack Gibbs, High Rollers. They were replaying they had a watch party as such. Sort of, they had 4 guys on, including Jack, talking about the Hamburg Fitz 2018 game. It was a really good game. It was great to have someone who was on the bench and guys who really love their basketball talk about a game. It was a really good concept, and I really enjoyed watching that show. Also watched CJ's show. He had Lee Ryan from Oakland's basketball, and that was a really good watch. CJ's doing some really great work. A weekly show with coaching approach. So sort of coaches talking about their style, what their team looks like, the fundamentals about their style of coaching. It's been really good insights and lots of great shows. So again, if you like what I'm doing on here, obviously go check out CJ, obviously go check out Jack Gibbs. They'll do some really good shows with different perspectives on basketball, from a wheelchair perspective or a coaching perspective, or say myself, sort of a bit varied with rest players. There's a lot of content coming on Upstreamedia, so keep an eye out, and if you're not subscribed, give it a subscribe for all the up-to-date content. So at the start of the video, I sort of said how I'm finding it really hard to keep up with everything because either I'm starting working from home a bit more, or I'm looking at my own personal development. And for me, I've really enjoyed coming on here talking about basketball, and I'm really keen to sort of take it as far as it goes, but also learn as I go. And I think the latter for me is more important. Is that what I learn? I think the more I know, the more credible I come across when I'm doing these videos. I think I could cover a broader aspect of British basketball. The last 2 years, I've been very stat heavy in terms of what I sort of soak up like a sponge. Like really just sort of Dave Owen. And again, quick shout out to Dave Owen, who's doing great work cataloguing all of the stats from British basketball. That's from BBL players or NBL players or the guys out there abroad playing for a living. He's doing some great work keeping all those stats up to date, so people know what they're getting on, and it's really helped those guys. So get scholarships or contracts, or just get their name out there. And I feel like the more I've watched basketball, I know it's not just about the most common stats. So I've bought a few books recently. One of them's just here. Recommended by Coach Acuna. It's basketball on paper. I'm just about to start reading it. I'm on with other basketball-related books. Just I love learning, and I'm quite busy, but I feel I need to make that time to do some learning. But how I want to sort of put that learning in terms of content is each week to look at a different stat. To say, obviously Dave Owen does great work. Basketball really has a lot of the stats out there, and it's today I sort of had a facepalm moment. It was quite funny. Just usually if I try to do a stat leaderboard from Basketball England's website, spent ages typing it across, and I just realised today if I copied and pasted the whole lot, it comes out quite good on Excel. So it's going to save me a lot of hours next season. But so I thought, like, each Monday I'd do like a stat show. I'd watch a game in the week and look at maybe stuff like a screen assist or assist to turnover stuff, but it's too hard to have something each week. But if you look at the NBA, it's often sort of things that are mentioned in terms of when they're comparing some of the best players. So this week I was looking at the assists to turnover, and obviously saw my tweet on Twitter promoting the show. I said, but I'll talk about the 15 best assist to turnover players in the NBL. I left a little bit of asterisk, so I thought straight away there could be a player that played one game and did 6 assists, no turnovers, when he's maybe right at the top. So I kind of thought that when I was looking at it, I'll talk about the players that have done 10 games. I thought when they'd have a lot of games to sort of go from, and also players who've got at least 10 assists. and bits about it if people not know. So basically, is a reasonably good stat to judge how good a ball handler is. So I they're really good at making that assist to get the bucket, but also they limit the amount of turnovers and loose possession. An opportunity for the other side to get the bucket instead. So I'll talk mostly about the 15, as I said, that are within those restrictions I said, but there are a few players I will give shout outs to because they may have just missed it. I think we want to adjust it for one player, but not just for all. So, number 15, a good place to start, AJ Carr. This guy, for people not know, he played for Reading Rockets for a season and a half. Currently out injured, but he's just back to full health. And only yesterday, he was messaging me asking me what's the news with NBL. So, I think stories like that, when people are really so interested in product shows, but actually, we have debated in past other shows and other content creators about having players on board. But I think if we make it a global game, it definitely helps say those players still have that interest in the league after they've gone, but also when they're playing, their friends and families will be there to watch. So he came in number 15. Obviously, had an amazing season 2, got injured. And he had a really good bit of form at the start of the season. I was just looking through it, and he recorded 2 turnovers in his first 3 games and 17 assists. So he was very effective at being an offensive presence for his team. And obviously, as I said, his injury is shortened by injury. If you hadn't heard about it, he was on my guest from the earlier shows. He talked a bit about his injury, he talks about what he was doing in terms of rehab, and I say he's ready and raring to go. Whether he'll come back to UK next season, we've got to wait and see. But definitely a very good player to start off the leaderboard. Then the next one, Jonas Diederich, another player who went on a bit of a purple patch. Students and Puns obviously love to do play in purple. I think he had 4 games with 7 assists and no turnovers. Amazing talent. People that know he started with Leicester Riders this season. Then came down to Love for one reason or another. Again, without meaning to, he's another person had a guest on this show. He's had an amazing journey. He's gone from like the 30th for Leicester all the way up to their BBL team. Obviously, I didn't mention the news, but I thought this was really interesting. So, Leicester Riders are doing their jersey giveaway auction at the moment, and you can bid on Jonas's match-worn jersey and many others. When I looked this morning, bids were at £50, but you can bid for that and get yourself a match-worn jersey. So that could be quite cool to get. So, if that's something you're interested in, head over to Leicester Riders shop. So the next player came up, and these kind of players I want to do these stats for, because I feel, if you did like the assist leader, the point leaders, they need to half story. And this guy, AJ Bassey's had a great season, and actually when I was looking at an individual performance, probably had the best one out, one of the best for sure. And that was against Liverpool, and in the first Liverpool, he got 29 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, 5 steals, 80% field goal shooting with no turnovers. So that was really impressive. Again, so if people don't know, he played for Worthing Thunder this year. He's a really exciting player to watch, and definitely a guard who can hard to get the ball from, I suppose, high standing in that leaderboard. With number 12 is Bode Adelola. Very experienced guard, highly rated. One of the shows that I follow closely, Juice Pod, one of the guys had him in their sort of dream team for the BBL. This guy's been there for quite a few seasons. Very good. And I was looking, and I thought it was really interesting because he probably would have come up much higher in the table. He did, in one game, I think it was the second game of the season, he amassed 11% of his turnover. Sorry, so the game against Nottingham, I think he got 7 turnovers, and if a guy doesn't get many turnovers, that that performance really sort of set him a bit lower in terms of where he finished. So yeah, he had a really good season, but I say probably would have got a little bit higher if it was for that game. And probably a standout performance was in a game versus Loughborough. He went for 10 assists and 1 turnover. And next guy, I think is amazing because he's the only guy to get in the top 15 and having amassed 10 games, 10 assists, and be playing for a team outside of his playoffs. And this guy's Luke Mitchell, experienced NBL D1 player. And consistently have a sort of 30 minutes game, but very rarely get many turnovers. I think one game we got more than 2 turnovers. And amazing to be, because how when I look at that sort of turnovers and assists, it's sort of, if you imagine if you're a team very less performing, it's probably harder for you to not have a turnover because you're having to work hard if you're a top player, or the other team's probably got better defense possibly. So actually for him to be 11th, it's a real testament to his quality in terms of that league. As with all stats, it's really good to take it with a pinch of salt, as well as looking into it a bit more depth and not their names. So there's quite a few players who, their best performances was against maybe some lesser teams, and maybe against the top 4, didn't really find those assists. So he did break their stat more to look at how maybe the players did against top 4 in terms of the teams that maybe a bit more organised defence. And they need to tell part of the story. So it's always important just to not take one stat on its own, which is why I sort of thought I want to learn more about stats. I think the more you have, the clearer the picture you get, but also at the same time, there's parts of the game unstatable and they're equally as important. Okay. So now we get into the top 10. Most of these guys play for sort of top 5 sides of the NBL. Again, the flip side is if you're playing for the top side in the NBL, you guys got better defense, probably got better offense, so you guys, your pass, you're probably more likely to score per se. It's not exact science, but I'm just saying actually there's limitations to relying on a certain stat. But at 10 is Ishmael Fontaine from Woven Thunder. Shout out to Ishmael, who was actually part of the most recent produced podcast on the whether UK ballers should be go to America or look for BBL opportunities. So for those who might not know, Ishmael sort of comes off the bench, but is very reliable and someone who gets sort of 12 minutes a game. So average almost half the turnover a game is pretty impressive and shows he's quite a reliable guard option for them to call upon from bench. Next up, number 9. This guy just had his highlights video dropped down on Instagram. So if you've not seen it, go and give watch. It's done by I think Joe Pinch had a lot to do with this one. The player in question is Carl Jimenez, and he had an amazing individual game which probably contributed towards his success as leaderable. And it was on Valentine's weekend in a tough game. 9 assists, 2 turnovers versus Hemel. We mentioned how Bodie could have been higher up, but he was one behind Bodie on that day. But it was a really good day for Kyle, and being a top 10 it shows how the quality has, and obviously to watch his highlight videos for visual evidence of his quality. So it's quite thirsty work talking away to you guys. I hope you're well, and so really enjoying doing these. And each week I'll look at different stats. I know we look at stats on big games as well. I think like I've got a few games to mind: the BBL Trophy Final, and the maybe the Kestrel's game versus Bristol, but also maybe other games where I've seen these guys in really good performances to break it down a bit more. And I can't, I got to give credit to Michael Darlow for the inspiration behind it, not directly behind, but Michael was saying it was another Desmond show. First season as a coach for Hemel Storm, and he messaged me a few days ago, saying about maybe a few weeks ago about this project he's only just released recently. It's mic'd up, so each week he's have a guest on, and then they'll talk a bit about a certain game. I imagine the games will be played in the background. They'll be talking about it, talk about some of the decisions, maybe some of the stuff that's said on timeouts. I think it's an amazing idea, and I'm really looking forward to the first one. I think it actually drops this evening, so that'd be a really good one to tune into later after the show if you still want more content, but it'll be out there for you guys to watch post-production as well. As we get into the top 10, these talents get bigger and bigger in terms of the effects they have in terms of the major stats. Also, I think a lot of these names are more household names in terms of the NBL. So at number 8, got Alex Roberts from Loughborough. I said about how many Sunrise do well against the lesser teams, but hats off to Alex. In a tough away assignment versus Worthing, he got 11 assists to 1 turnover. He's an amazing shooter. He's had some BBL experience this year with the Leicester Riders, along with Jonas, came down to sort of help with the NBL team. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but their form got better when they were for these two guys. They had a lot of the pieces with Reese, Kyle, but I think just the added depth they had from these two guys from the BBL really helped in terms of their end of season performances. So at number 7, we've got Brendan Okamonkwo from Team Solent Kestrels. So he came across some South Coast rivals Worthing. He really impressed me last season because I felt, so if you ever go onto the NBL stats site, you then press the team, in this case Worthing, you get the top 5 players, all stats, and I hadn't watched many of Worthing's teams last year. I've watched 1 or 2, but from terms of looking at stat line, me someone would be consistently averaging reasonably good output. He was their third place in minutes, points, assists, rebounds. So he was a really integral part of their run last year. And obviously, Matt Diamond and co probably thought likewise, and maybe that's why he ended up at Kestrel this season. But he's had an amazing season, as has his whole team. And in the individual performance, went 6-0 against Liverpool. And again, these guys who I'm about to say, the rest of it, all average around 1 turnover a game, so definitely safe hands. But another thing I was thinking about is considering how Brendan's got this so high is, but actually, not just a technical aspect of him being able to pass, but also the physical strength. So a lot of these guys have either quite quick or quite well built, quite strong, but also play on teams that have very good first and second scoring options. So that does play a part too. So next on, at number 6, Palmeyer. This player's really impressed me. Anytime I've watched Reading, he's such a fast guy, shoot the free. I think where he's quite fast is to get into that paint, through the perimeter, often in traffic, find that pass, and it's showing him being a top 6 in this leaderboards. And one of his impressive performances since Hughes, he went 8 for 0 in a massive game for them, and like Okwonkwo, averaging about 1.3 turnovers per game. So these guys are very much give away ball very little, and I think that results in the likes of Solent Reading do so far. She saw both got to the National Cup final, and Reading having a really amazing season too. So no surprise that as we get a bit further, there's a few more Kestrel players in there because obviously they had an amazing season, but there's also some other players in there. But at number 5, Elliot Dadds. Again, another guest on the show more recently, actually. I think it was last Monday. Yeah, week today. So it's really good to have Elliot on the show. He's named Mr. Southampton to some players who knows him quite well, to some of him growing up from the juniors, going on with seniors. Probably spent 7 or 9 years, give or take, with a little break in between with the franchise. And watching him quite a lot, he's sort of one of the players that made me want to do this video. Just from watching him play, as you can see, he does a lot of stuff but aren't always statable. Like, I don't often see him turn over a ball. He takes a foul while he's pretty good solid guard, and being a top 5 player list shows it. But he had probably one of his standout games, a really tough game versus Derby, and he got 13 assists to 3 turnovers. But on that stat line that day was 5 points, 1 rebound, 13 assists, 3 steals, and a block, which sort of shows how it was a selfless game in terms of making sure he's past people, not shooting too many there, making sure Nets had defence locked in with 3 steals, 1 block. So that's definitely a good game himself. Now we move further into the top 5. So number 4 is Sire Taylor. That man is an amazing talent. I was actually just listening to him on Chuck Duru's podcast the other day. I need to watch the other half. So it's a 2-hour-long podcast, but very informative. I paused it halfway through, one reason or another, but I really enjoyed it and look forward to finishing watching that. It's on my top of my list of things to listen to. But it was a really good podcast. They Chuck, it was a test. I think he was my first guest on the show. He got some really good questions out of Sire, and it was a really good chat. And they were talking about how it raised eyebrows, special players having a player of his quality drop down from BBL into the NBL. Initially, he's got into ownership. And next year he'll be joined by his teammate who's retired, Alex Arumi. But again, when we're talking about big performances, I talked about Elliott's, talked a bit about 1 or 2 before that. Sire's definitely in that sentence with them. On the road, again, it was Westminster Warriors. Again, we sort of said before how maybe some of these stars got their performances to lesser teams, but actually his stat line, even though it's against one of those teams, is really impressive. It was 12 points, 9 rebounds, 14 assists, 5 steals. So it was amazing all-round performance. And even more impressive, and probably the reason why he's a bit higher up in this table, so he went to 14 assists to 1 turnover. So hats off to Sire. That was an amazing performance. I'm pretty sure he's still got a few years in the tank left, even though he's got that 1 foot in the ownership door, as they say. So, top 3 is not many surprises there. Number 3 is the Leeds MVP, Ian Smith. Again, they're on I remember I spoke to him earlier part of the season, and he'd always ask me like how many assists he had. He was definitely a guy that looks out for assists. And again, sorry, another guy who's been on the show, and then you can listen back to that show more by subscribing to Upstreamedia and checking out all the videos. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this show, and I've been doing shows pretty much most days since April, so there's probably 60 odd shows to catch up with. I appreciate that everyone's seen all of them, and if you had credit to you guys for watching them all. I've really enjoyed doing every one. Obviously, developed my style over time, and I've really enjoyed talking all guests because you get to learn a bit more about their story and their journey. And some of them have been giving some really good insights in terms of some about locker room chat, their experiences, some funny stories. I've really enjoyed them and grateful for Upstreamedia for the opportunity. But Ian Smith, again, number 3 in this leaderboard. Amazing performance on the road to, was it on the road? Yeah, on the road to Reading Rockets. And Reading gave him 2 tough games. He went for 23 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists, 2 steals, with 0 turnovers. Probably the performance of the season, getting a triple-double, and probably one of the reasons, but the league picked him as an MVP. And his performance was like that from him and his peers, but ensured that there was no debate on who should get the league title with this COVID stopping the season short. Number two, I was a little bit surprised, but not surprised other things. So when I watched him, when I commentated for Thames Valley Cavaliers twice to see, but he's um, a fan favourite and also a good team player. That's Josh Santos. He's number two. I think in a game where you got 30 minutes of Derby, that one went to overtime. He got, I think, 2 assists and 0 turnovers. So it was an amazing performance. And obviously, some teams they operate differently, but it shows actually how someone still impact on the game really well in terms of if they do their job well. I think Josh definitely fits in the bracket if someone does his job well to be so high in the leaderboard, but to get that opportunity at a high flying club such as Thames Valley Cavaliers and Southern Region season, so as a team, I think it was for me. They came on the radar last season. They had that region season, and at that time my basketball knowledge was limited. I knew starters really well, but I remember I was speaking to Martel much more at the end of the season, and something he said that really made me thought, yep, they'll do well next season. And he said that they, coming into last season, they had a high expectation of that. I think it was a third place finish. And the feeling in the camp was that they felt upset about not finishing as high as they wanted to be. And I think for me, they'd be one of the most exciting attacking teams to watch. And he's been a real force in the NBA. I'm looking forward to him next season. If you're a fan of the franchise, I think I just saw today Blaine Freckleton's released highlights video. He's a really good guard who's helped with the shooting and the passing and been a big assist player for the team. And, the hats off to everyone in the NBA. It's been a really good season, really entertaining. And I think that's part of the reason why we're all sad it finished so soon, because it was such an entertaining season. So many factors put the NBL on the map. It wasn't just Solent doing their BBL trophy. Rome Thunder beating the Manchester Giants. Sorry, I almost said Manchester Magic for some reason. Apologies. And obviously, Thames Valley Cavaliers, exciting team, and one of many teams that posted plus 100 points on numerous occasions, showing that there's a lot of attacking threat in the NBL. And obviously, no one really knows when the season will start. And the BBL obviously made their plans in terms of some of the things they've said, in terms of the fact the format of the cup and the league. They were mentioning for triple. I really hope for the NBL's sake, but if they want to because obviously they have one less team in the trophy, I hope they fill out for the NBL team, because I don't want to say that the NBL's on the same level as BBL, but there's definitely 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 possibly teams that could mix it with the BBL on a given night. Obviously, maybe it's sort of 3 and 4 who maybe that given night sort of 6 or 7 out of 10, maybe instead of maybe 2 or 3. Again, depends on the roster, depends on the night and the performance. But if you saw that for Irving did it, and Teschels did it all the way to final. I'm sure Thames Valley Cavaliers and Hemel Storm, and maybe Loughborough, maybe Reading, especially Red, Adrian Khan, Nick Richards. That was definitely one of the most exciting American 1-2s in the league, and American juries in the league. So definitely a lot to be happy about if you're a follower of the NBL. I've sort of lost the train of thought. Apologies. And also the sort of event off the court in terms of Lloyd Garn to go to the London City Royals. And then obviously March Doodle's gone the other way down to Teesside Lions. So there's definitely some opportunities, definitely some clubs that are shining examples. And we've covered some of that on our show, and I hope that comes through. Hopefully, the NBL to build on that momentum. Definitely, when I was watching Hoot 6 BBL round table, I definitely got the impression that they're looking at the NBL, they're They're looking at Solent, wanting Solent to join the BBL. They're looking at the Hemel, who've got the big fan base, or other teams around that league who definitely caught their eye. I definitely saw some sort of barrier to knowledge. They sort of made one or two comments. They thought, okay, that's not the case, but mostly they were right on the money and definitely looking for another NBL team to make that jump up in Tutor. Sorry. So, for the rating, obviously we count down from 15 right down to number 2. And I'm looking forward to bringing more stats to you because I think some stats tell more picture than others. But number 1 on his rookie year was Charlie Brown from Derby. Amazing season. I wasn't too surprised that he was high as he was because in terms when you look at before I was doing it, I was looking at assist turnover, I was looking at the assist leaders. We'll see likes of Ian, Bode, Sayer, Elliot, Dads, Charlie to all be around the top couple. So definitely, and it made me sort of critically think maybe in terms of other players we talked about prior to sort of Charlie Brown, but maybe it's the roles the team play. Maybe I kind of thought what factors in someone doing the assist? Is it a certain play or a certain pick and roll? And then also what limits the turnovers in terms of maybe how often they actually hold that ball. So I'm really excited to sort of develop my knowledge on stats, and I've really enjoyed it. And I mentioned quite a few times how I feel Derby are one of the more exciting up and coming teams. There's quite a few, but I do feel Derby are definitely one to watch for next season. So before I go, I thought I'd just talk a bit about what's on the show this week. So tomorrow, CJ Lee's back on again with another coaching guest. I forgot who he's on with, but I'll post the link below. I really enjoy CJ's shows. They've been really good quality to watch and great insights. And I really enjoyed last week's one with Lee Ryan. Thursday, I'm really excited for my guest. It's one of the players I really enjoyed watching for NBL Live. And in terms of individual performances, definitely was very unlucky not to win NBL Player Meet 2 or 3 times. And it's the Leicester Warriors TJ Henderson. I know a lot of players we've had on the show have said he's one of the exciting players they've watched the season. So we're going to cover his journey, people inspired him, what made him player he is today, and maybe what parts of his game he's looking at for next season. I'm really interested to see if he comes back to British basketball next season. Obviously, players probably not always want to say too much about players, understandably so. But a lot of players have really good insights. Quite a few guests come on have actually confirmed on air who they play for next season. So if you want to hear about where some players are landing, definitely watch the show. Some guests have actually been quite open with it. But I look forward to talking to TJ about this season, the highlights, maybe expectations going in, maybe some of the challenges. Because I imagine actually from personal level, there's not much exposure in the league, and from the outside in, there was quite a few performances. I thought, wow, he's had an amazing game, and it almost seemed to be like a competitive with Taylor Johnson, because they both had those big performances most nights on the same night, and it'd often be a very small thing in terms of to see how BE gave him the reward. It does play in a week, but actually you can see it, but TJ got it, and I really look forward to chatting to him. Say he had a good season. Find out how he's getting on because he's back in America. It's actually a really good show. Obviously, people who watch the show regularly will notice, but I've sort of cut down to 3 a week, and I'm managed at the moment. I say I'm working from home. I'm also trying to do some personal development, also broaden my skill set with Photoshop, and also keeping the site regularly updated as well as my social media. So it's a lot of work to put in, but I appreciate you guys giving the feedback. That's really helped, and I'm enjoying doing this. As long as Rupert Upstreamedia do the channel, I'll still be doing it, but probably just the 3 a week will be my limit. I think the guys high rollers may or may not be doing a show this week. We have to wait and see. But then next week, so obviously I've said about the 2 shows to do this week. Next week, pretty much got all the guests confirmed. So Monday, I'm going to do another stat thing like this. Tuesday, I've got Danny Carter from Reading Rockets. He's obviously retired this season. I really look forward to talking to him because I know I've talked to him in the past. He's had passions like Chuck to do something similar in terms of having that podcast. So I'll see how he's getting on with that. I think at the end of last season, it was one of my favourite memories of the season. He did the NBL player swap with Tintin Watts. That was really good. But it was a shame to learn, but they couldn't keep the shirts they swapped. And they both had a really good career in terms of British basketball. If you were to discuss the best NBL players to play in the game recently, those two are definitely a conversation. I remember Dave Owen did a poll on it. And also, on that topic, Tintin Watts, Dave Watts, obviously most people know him as Tintin, played for the Hoods that season. They both retired that season. That's why I did the player swap. It's on everything Chris. And obviously, for people who watched it, the show, I mean, it was last week. So the days go so quickly. I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people with their schedules up in the air. He came on. I really enjoyed that show. Such a great guy, similar guy to myself, in terms of having that same passion and enthusiasm. And it was really good because I looked at his body of work, I looked at mine. We sort of meet in the middle to see more about the BBL, and I'm more about the NBL. But definitely both have similar people we've had on the show, so we talked a bit about the insights each guest has brought. And we're both doing quite a lot of content. His more on the Instagram, but his expands to YouTube. And then on Tuesday, so obviously Danny Carter. Thursday, I'm really excited for this guest. For me, he's one of the guys setting or carrying the flag, as you call it, at the US sort of. Definitely one of the top players to watch out for future is Josh Argudele. I'm really interested in his thoughts. As I said, we talked before the show about the Hughes 6 round table, then the Ballers Voice, and a lot of people giving their thoughts on the American experience and whether it's beneficial to players or should they play the BBL. And I think sometimes it's best for the players currently in stance to it, which obviously the Ballers Voice did, so those guys are still playing. But it'd be nice to see what his experience is. So I think it's mixed. I think you find the right fit for you, he does that great experience, but I obviously see where the BBL is coming from. But if you're basing it on terms of setup, facilities, those relationships you already have, it does raise some question marks why maybe some players at least go to America when maybe they could have got a better opportunity in England. But I think a lot of it's the experience, the thing that's external to basketball. I think that culture, and sometimes people just want to experience the culture. So I'm really looking forward to having Josh on the show a week Thursday. It'll be a really good watch. I think it's a really good place to leave it for tonight. I hope you're well and staying safe. Obviously, that roadmap to Basketball England hasn't changed. I know the national government, they brought us down to stage 2, is it? Which means that the virus is out there, but maybe not as prevalent, which also coincides with relaxing the shielding rules, which I think that's my English literature background. Looking for read for meaning, sorry. And I think some of that decision has been because of pressures on the economy, but also as we relax the coronavirus in terms of government, it obviously means we're getting into that right direction of coming back for the next season. And I'm not sure if people watched it because not many people actually just be to watch content. It's a news thing, but he did a really good webinar. And I think sometimes people criticise BBL for not being transparent or maybe for many different things. And I think it's really hard because they are working hard. And actually in this webinar, it was really honest advice and they were saying, but actually as things stand, they're planning for three main options. It can all change. Planning to start the season as it should, planning for November or planning for January, and they kind of hint but or mention actually, but the November January looks the most obvious and likely at this stage. And I was reading it because they also released a pandemic policy, because they obviously have a policy which all clubs run by. I'm not sure how many people read this. It's quite a big document, but they just added a pandemic article at the end, which you can read, and it's really interesting because it says what's going to happen. Because my concern is if we start in January, you're doing the season maybe that finishes later, but then you're thinking how many games you get into that, and it does seem that on paper they're looking at maybe scrapping the National Cup possibly if it's a later start, because they're sort of saying clubs would get a refund of X amount if the National Cup wasn't on, and that's kind of in their like columns with the November January start. So it's difficult because I think BE do a really great job of sort of telling us what the plan is, but we're in middle June now, and it's September, October, November. So I missed all the search. 4 or 5 months possibly till the season starts. A lot to happen, but I say keep safe everyone, because we're getting there. We're just got to hang in a bit more. Keep doing what you're doing to try and keep yourselves happy and going, because it is difficult, but I think there's a balance there. Some days we have good days, some days have bad days. So that's a wrap for me. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. I look forward to chatting to you guys tomorrow. So take care. Goodbye and good night.